Hello, Americans. Hello, people of Russia. Hello, American intelligence community. Hello, Russian intelligence community. Our country's leaders, overt criminal enterprises and private ones distinctly, but also non-distinctly, they can't afford to have discern. What Mr. Putin was speaking about were and how he said there is a contingent or there are contingents of American intelligence, for example, that had demonstrated while through time Americans and Russians were forced to hurt each other. And the difference of that and other countries hurting each other and all that mixed, it has been names A through Z as systems tactically ulterior from the one that is unabridged, which is hyper native pure, which demonstrates to us indigenous value growing, only positive to itself, temporary / lasting to an extent. See, all formal convictions by and for the law and for names have stayed that extent, tactical ulterior from what is itself. Now, we have uses of words like by our experts, extremism and radical, that are criminally foreign influenced and tactically delusions wrought. Uses of the sciences names individually grouped and together per uses of location /s. They are increasingly putting fake things in databases and fake natures of communications and changed what is actually communicated between little kids and adults and between adults and little kids. And the difference of that, the intelligence community has roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders that were timed, collusions, and increasingly needing to hide that because there are uses of it. Vladimir Putin, it's already known. Vladimir Putin didn't declassify it. Barack Obama didn't declassify it. It's already known. Russians were here since before America. These countries were the suits and ties foundations of it before colonization. Modern religions together, they show that the sciences were already abridged, criminally foreign influence, incapable of defending their use of short words, let alone the protraction, relative to how nature was demonstrating and is demonstrating to us to use our short words, let alone the protraction, like regarding motivations. It's one of the methods they lie about people why they want to be heard. See, Connecticut switches names that prevents writing on a mass scale with interstates names. There are with judges and prosecutors, their family members at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Whole bunch of different countries. Now that needs to pretend they had other motivations for it. Increasingly, I never saw Ray Collo on the campus of Central Connecticut State University or Trinity College, but people involved with wire crimes with them with Wethersfield Police. Also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and they semi-confirmed that next to Trinity College. People with the name Ray Collo have roles planting, and with the word, with uses of the word maturity, where they're putting fake things in databases tied to that. And they're in syntax, like online, making it speak like we had communications growing up that never were. That were, other words were communicated per the nature of relationship I had to people, and they attached me to fake locations and sequence relationships to them and the people I hung around with. The people I only know in the pattern where it's actually recorded. People who sought me out to plant evidences. Robert Rodriguez used the word logistics as one of the on-off parks involved with Russians and Americans on-off campuses, tied to people associated with the interview of Tucker Carlson and with the interview with Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin from Russia and America dialogue. See, we have when Syria is involved. All these countries are involved. But in other words, Ukraine and Palestine and Gaza, measured and maintained, is left out how the suburbs were designed for the torture, extortion, in fact, cheap nature slavery of our founders. There was also a recent video. I have to get the link to it real quick. Now, Native Navajo, because I forgot to put that link to it. But the Navajo we're communicating about, there's a Navajo video communicating about the history of the Navajo. And what they're describing is what Mr. Putin was describing, but is other than people have pretended they heard. They were sophistication before America. See, there are passions, emotions, and natures of debate regarding everything, like sophistication. This is where they hurt the president distinctly. They hurt President Obama, Trump, and Biden. They force collusion /s with a hyper-singular quality of fact-cheating nature called criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer. Nature itself shows us this. Nature is a word for identity, where and how nature's name is greater than and more finite than its physical body alone. As you know, you are parts of yourself that are gone, but that experience is here. And that is its experience. So, but rather than use what we know is simultaneously true always, and what is the order of the finite, not the smallest finite detail left out, not the value of what came first. This would have shown us, true always, that would have shown us there was a breaching method sustained against humanity, and then it spilled over to America, already having possessed members to roles with it, forcing the rest of humanity further and further to be natures of unity, simultaneously to be natures of independence, for how nature forces the simultaneous to be valued, to show how /hyper-simultaneous is valued. This is how computers work. They are an identity of value /value progression that can be positive or negative and have relativity to sequence. In other words, 5 distinct identities of sequence /simultaneous nature that are bound 3 ways distinctly from how. Distinctly /non-distinctly from how. They are bound 5 ways. By and at, as. But not as it completely, except for one way, the identity of the hyper-simultaneous. Per science, that identity that is why. Its identity of relationship to itself and the only increasing value of that as a scientific value, as why and how, to begin with the discernment of it as a scientific value of why and how there are 2 eyes that fish, the species body of fish have, the different species of fish. The humanity has. Same species. Different species of humanity. Maybe they went extinct or not. The nature of the debate regarding the significance, the validity of data, facts, or evidence, truth or lies. It is used to maintain collusions with criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatments that are simultaneously identity treatments, but they are also simultaneously collusion /s with the identity of the breaching method as a scientific value also, as a distinct identity of hyper-simultaneous nature, hyper additionally from the one that is inseparable from all things except for how it is not them, except how it is anyway, all things. It is the identity of space slash existence, distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, and slash hyper simultaneously. Because the extent of space slash existence that we could discern comes also with the three natures of ways it won't mix with humanity and with matter, but one. And this is where, even though it is not a volume, its identity of relationship to itself is equal to being a volume, where the hyper invisible but still discernible part of every identity is. So, since founding, all formal voices for the law and all exceptions have been state collusions with descriptions of them after the fact, during it, and before that, per breaching method that was in charge of the identity the sciences share, and where and how there's applications by that nature assigned that are no longer allowed. In other words, they were it revealed the republic for which we stand. Nature itself, before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced, and it was, with exceptions in exception nature, revealed. It was appreciating three distinct identities of hyper invisible but still discernible. One of them being relative to how the other two are distinctly hyper invisible but still discernible. For how we move from appreciation of that which is a scientific value to appreciating how it is also discernibly generating more values, plural. And so we begin and stay with its identity. Its identity is a relationship to itself and the value of that as a trinity. And then matter was created inside this. And there's a hyper evidential trail that shows this is more probable and or is more practical to theorize, let alone to convict. Like, for example, where a Big Bang is a theory, is more probable, is more demonstrable. That its identity's relationship to itself and the value of that. Before it was a physical value, it generated that physical value. It shows us nature. Nature's identity is the only value that makes more. That is an identity that is inseparable from values. It makes its own values. That makes its own value. Everybody makes its own value to an extent, but now it is through value nature systems tactical ulterior from its own. And the causes of that and what it causes, like negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. A breaching method employed them to be blamed on other things, others, or selves. So the intelligence community has roles with psychiatry, tactically delusions raw, fabricating things into medical databases and pretending they can't speak about it because they're doctors and they're not allowed to speak about conversations with their patients. There are men and women who are doctors, foreign and domestic, who have collusions attaching little kids to fake conversations with themselves. Faked, they're with other families that are actually involved with them and their family members. So there's an Anthony Yagman increasingly involved with federal evidences crimes with people on off Central Connecticut State University, Wethersfield town offices, Kensington town offices, people involved with the corner of Town Line Drive and Saustine Highway, and shopping center, and then next to the schools, involved with predicate acts with facts, with foreign and domestic medical families on Facebook too, with New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page and Wethersfield Police Facebook page, with child defenders, even sexual, medical, and further digital, with women judges involved. See, these are punk games where they pretend not to understand people because they prevent writing in order to prevent writing on a mass scale. There are means to get them, in other words. And one of the videos of Judge Napolitano's Judging Freedom, he said that I believe he said the first day he went as a Superior Court judge, I believe it was, in New Jersey. Maybe he didn't say what kind of judge it was, but it sounds like a Superior Court judge because he had 400 arraignments in one day. And if we know, because having black pupils and having had that cause, having had systems of people speaking for black and white, tactical ulterior from how nature speaks for it and with it. And then the nature of debate, again, we have to examine quality of fact-sheet nature, aspects of fact-sheet nature, and nature itself as criminal insidiousness. Natures of positive treatments and negative treatments as collusion /S. So there are suits and ties, and there are counters to them, and there are exceptions who can't afford defenses of their own logic and to have short words unaccosted regarding the hyper-evidential associated with their dress, associated with where and how the suburbs were designed before our founders were born, associated with the hyper-evidential where and how our founders communicated for us to communicate about how there was a predicate acts with facts delivery system method, a torture method, extortion method, a slavery method against themselves and everyone, sickly distinctly. It had a sign black and white, again, to communicate other than it does. For nature, therefore, for the Constitution unabridged. They had to hide their motivations with getting that said. Us told to get the Constitution unabridged. They also communicated for us to do it, not leaving out the names game used by the method /S, but the plural parts, besides how it was 3 ways and 5 ways, where it has to keep sequence shifts valued by everyone else. The sequence shifts that it caused. You guys are describing history, and you're using this breaching method measures and maintains self-value uses of the identities, the names of the sciences abridged, and those people pretending other. How they get away with it and got away with it is also recorded. But you guys don't follow mandated law on a mass scale. Tucker Carlson went to a Trinity College, which has roles with untimely deaths and people involved with former director of the FBI. I don't know if Miss Crystal is one of the names that was brought up on the Judge Napolitano website. I don't know Mr. McChrystal, but I know there are Navy people, foreign and domestic, and there are, like with Mexico, involved with people with predicate acts with facts with people from New Mexico too, and people associated with a cafeteria in Mexico, per people involved with the World Trade Center and spots next to it with World Trade Center predicate acts, also with WFSB. There's also a Larry Martin, that a Ray Colo and that Joe DeMauro recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with other kids involved with the intelligence community who I never had classes with, who were pretending to know me in backgrounds. Then they had to make fake exceptions afterwards. So there are people before they took oaths. Everyone before you took oaths, you had criminally foreign influence, fact, nature, quality aspects, and natures of collusion /S. where this breaching method effectively assigned, what it caused, and what it is still causing, and what it caused that is also still causing things, effectively assigned, instead blamed on other things, others, or on selves. So Americans and Russians have been hurting each other for a long time, and that has effectively been used as an excuse, where how defenses of identities as their roles with the nature of debate, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. How they get away with this, in other words, is also relative to where and to how they have self-value roles with upskirt natures pictures of leaders of the kids involved and uses of them that women judges also have as evidence as their roles with other natures of organized crime at the same time. That's why it's how it's self-valued. So we need to get them on paper. Forgiveness, if you guys want forgiveness, we won't leave out the hyperform body. And then, in other words, which recorded. These are people involved with whiting forensics before I was born, when I was a little kid, when I was a young man, and still increasingly involved with wire crimes with police departments from Connecticut, overt criminal enterprises and private ones at the same time. The FBI has conscious roles with other agencies, for example, with uses of keywords where they respond to negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, valuing, having been blamed on other things, others, or selves. Where they have keywords, they do things to keep people from getting views. Where they have been discrediting information as roles with obstruction of justice, including with judges and prosecutors. Since founding there were ways that the breaching method used either the difference of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, insidiousness of names A through Z. Like, for example, with uses of, in the nature of debate, with uses of words, the value of voting, is applied where it does not have that value. Uses of the truth to lie, the right to lie, by the FBI directors and others that defend their identities. You guys can't afford to have discerned proper receptions of sequence value, proper reception of names uses as they are actually recorded, manifest. To the intelligence community, forces, tricks, hurts, and persuades. The news community to collusions with themselves while they pretend to be against it. At the same time, see, they're getting over on the simultaneous / hyper simultaneous. They can't afford to have discerned all the ways nature shows us the difference between criminal insidiousness, natures of positive treatments and negative treatments. It shows us how to answer questions like, how could things so unnatural like slavery be? The answer is because there is such a thing, not just as criminal insidiousness, natures of reality, but there is hyper criminally foreign influenced. Roles with slavery. What motivated roles with slavery? Were roles self-valued with criminal foreign influences and with tactical delusions and with as self-valued fact, treatment, nature, quality aspects and natures imparted through sciences tactically abridged from their hyper-native state. Boxing is great. So people want to have debates about the presidents and about policies as tools used to measure and maintain left out. How George Washington was, how James Madison was our founder, and how George Washington agreed to help him counter extort North and South. Fake sides still enrolls with the enslavement of the slavery of everyone, forced to a counter position to do damage control. But we have not completed that. And that's what Vladimir Putin was speaking about, and that's what the Navajo history with the Dinesh is about. If I can find this video, here's a link to Navajo. And this is only one of the individual grouped and together tribes who are 1/3 of our founders that way. 1/3 are the founders who had to counter extort the other founders. And those other founders are the other third. And everyone was tortured, extorted, and factory nature enslaved by the hyper evidential, the hyper, simultaneous, a breaching method, the hyper transnational, the hyper foreign, specifically as a method that uses and used what it causes and keeps and what it caused and kept to simultaneously blame the other things others solve. We're also employed a hyper theater, hyper additional from the hyper theater, capable of answering all our questions individually grouped and together, capable of showing us if there are collusions when others ask us questions. New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts have roles with asking questions and with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and the difference of their roles there too. Planting evidences together with a whole bunch of different nations, Russians, people. There's a school with a whole bunch of flags on it at the corner of Park Street and New Park Avenue, involved with judges, prosecutors, and former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with a big blue house, and a girl who uses the name Amy or Emily, associated with Eric Burgess, who's one of the foreign and domestic military families, involved also with medical locations and police forms who are doctors, who are putting fake transcripts, behavior racketeering on a mass scale. See, these are the counters to things at the border, who were people who were raised collusions with people from those countries before they were born. These are intercultural and intracultural groups who have badges that are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against complete strangers. They'll tell you this. All exception nature appear to be in demonstration, while they are in demonstration the same thing. So we have rights that are too numerous to list, to have to list. We can't be forced to speak. If we speak and they change what we say or fake it, we need to be able to address that. So they have a torture, extortion, slavery method. And they also have sequence shifts with the people who made torture legal criminally. And it's not even debatable because their uses of criminally foreign influence uses of the spots next to Fox Connecticut News and the spots next to WTNH and the spots next to WFSB involved with wire crimes and wire crime methods with the sources of CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Sandy Hook campuses, educational, fire campuses, and they have a prison there involved with names like O'Brien and Cololo, with people who criminally foreign influenced. When I was in 4th through 6th grade, people from other classrooms who were putting with the intelligence community fake things in databases, also planting it with people from other areas on off my area, and associated with those names in my area, having conversation with me, criminally foreign influence. This is a method they use where they lie about the motivations of others. Increasingly, that is manifest where and how they have to pretend people want to be heard for reasons other than, because mandated law should lead algorithms. Mandated law with care and proper law, and not leaving out what came first. Sandy Hook, as a prison there, has roles with crimes with their patients and criminals before they got caught. Off the body dumping spot of a serial killer. Even if that was made up, that guy has roles with the Sandy Hook prison and with various courts, with crimes with kids, with names on, with a principal sex offender, a principal child abuser, involved with uses of their kidnappings, emotions, timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises, not legitimately. There was a sub-Bajeri involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me. The exceptions were him planting evidences with courts, judges, a whole bunch of people tied to a Judge Smith, a Judge Killian, and one's tied to the name Scalora, Spada, and Demora. who have been planting evidences on my street, roles with home break-ins, with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, their family members, the lawyer, Robert Chevalier, in spots next to his law offices. Have roles with people with the name Mayano, too, involved with sequence shifts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, increasingly involved with uses of gym teachers I had, but I never had a conversation with them. They're involved with this game where they're vertically and horizontally making confessions too. There's a Mr. Pruzzi involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people on off the state corrections offices that have roles with stealing stuff from me as a in grammar school, with people who have fake ties, fake natures of ties to me from other classrooms, planting fake things in databases, conversations with my teachers, criminally foreign influence. And then so they measure and maintain that you can't respond, otherwise, and they use your responses. So they have uses of words like telling. Well, I'm telling on you, to put fake things in databases and then pretend emotions and passions years later. WTNH has wire crimes with teachers of Weathersfield schools further, male and female, also with the male and female judges, with black KKK, the Confederate flag team, child abusers. That's their roles with foreign and domestic military on off Yukon, on off Central Connecticut State University with names Violet, Kolvinskis, involved with sequence shifts and wire crimes with O'Brien's and Colola with various police departments, Beauty Enterprises, UPS, have roles with shipping, people with next to the post office, had my name used with them by people like tied to a Chris Walters, with the Ray Colola. They both recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. People with the name Bose are involved with the intelligence community also on off Trinity College, identity theft, fraud, slanders with them, and organized crime bodies also next to the spots next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with wire crimes with them. So it's important to get them on paper because these are people involved with uses of Judge Napolitano's Facebook page, and the one with Fox News involved with more upskirt pictures roles and planting wire crimes. They have a Chris White who and reportedly as an officer who was involved with the shooting on off of Albany Avenue, where and how they have roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and the difference of foreign and domestic military who have been involved with probate judges, families, and military on off Two Route Highway, where it runs into Hangdog Lane. And its conjunctions like Route 3, which are conjunction and the conjunctions to that, which is off of Route 3 is the state judicial branch offices. And increasingly conjunctions to it and natures of conjunction to it are exploited, where exceptions and exception nature is also exploited, where and how we speak, and people call us liars or truth. No, the good and bad descriptions of ourselves are criminally foreign influence. There are collusions with uses of them. So it is necessary to make them follow mandated law, black pupils. These are people involved with the schools next to the house names next to the schools, planting evidences for people from off campuses and from off those locations, using and having used he said, she said, collusion, where and how the people are supposed to be experts on that, have stayed criminally foreign influence. And the difference between that, the overt criminal enterprises and private ones, all sides and cases, and the interbranch switching names and sequences, because they were raised criminally foreign influence, A through Z. If they want forgiveness, all they have to do is not deny that and follow mandated law, so I can show it, record it. In other words, if they want to deny it, try to do it honestly. Nature itself will show inherent active and progressive to your logic increasingly. So they have these words like progressive and woke. They make them mean other than they do. And they attribute it, in other words, all kinds of medical corruption is involved with the syntax of the intelligence community. with the agencies, CIA and FBI, and state police are with the Wethersfield Police and Hartford Police Departments, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. They have Afghan leaders and kids involved with Los Solitos, with wire crimes, with the houses next to Trinity College and on off it, with named Cololo increasingly, and and people conversation ties to him and his conversations with my neighbors, with my other neighbors, increasingly as time rolls with untimely deaths. Robert Reed had roles with the word logistics tied to this too. Has something to do with their roles with intelligence on off fire departments too, involved with wire crimes too, with Wethersfield Police, with Inspector Mike. There's a Mike Kerr, his brother Jerry Kerr. There's a Mike Pandolf. There's a Mike Roberts. There's a Mike Demain. These are intelligence people, intelligence family, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with schools I have where they're in the background with putting faked evidences. Also about protests, because they have roles with descriptions of group think and how to counter it with the bodies where they're defending their logic, but they can't defend themselves. See, they can't appreciate any of the subjects properly because you guys can't appreciate sequence value first. You would appreciate Native Americans individually grouped and together, had a breaching method upon them that was sickly distinctly against the people already upon them. You wouldn't screen that by pretending it, oh, America's against this or that. America's against anything that's abridged, and that state abridgments. So the suburbs were designed by the torture, extortion, slavery method. We can't have this discerned because it already effectively employed other things, others ourselves blamed for that, for what that causes, which is nature's negative nature demonstrates negative value, nature progressions, action, nature. These also contain demonstrations of the breaching method. But you guys have to follow mandated law. Get on paper. So that's one of the things the intelligence community does is they lie about why people want to be heard. And they have uses of words like privacy, criminally foreign influence. They're the ones forcing me to speak. They're involved with extortion, slavery, torture, and identity theft, fraud, slanders. A whole bunch of people tied to a police chief, Centron, and 1 years ago, before him, spreading lies with the same house, with wire crimes with them. I don't know if he was talking about me, implied he was talking about me, saying someone was in the basement, didn't use the name. But he also, in other contexts, used my name. He's putting fake police reports. A police chief, Centron, has Mazzucato Bakery, and has Modern Pastry involved with their confessions he made with former director of the FBI through others. And these are with the judges and prosecutors further involved with child abusers, leaders of kids around their own. Let me get them on paper, one name and sequence. Let's go. Stop speaking about, look at Ukraine. Look at Israel. All that time went by. I put proofs. Years before, I put counter theater because I tied to the World Trade Center predicate acts, methods recorded, whole methods of them to cover it up afterwards. That's how many long Cain and Abel story. You guys can't appreciate the Cain and Abel story. You guys are tactically delusions wrought with your reading of the subject of each and the science and the religions. The nature of debate contains quality aspects in nature as criminal insidiousness / hypercriminal insidiousness. So follow mandated law too. You guys can't be honest about my behavior if it's when it's aggressive or when it's calm. This is also important because I'm warning you guys to be nice to you guys. Well, my cartoon said we're not playing the games. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions. We have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. So those people are real people represented by the fake people in the cartoon value nature system with a little rap guy and friends. But you see those big, tall, stacked buildings in New York City, you're out of your mind if you think that there are not all kinds of demonstrations of freedom's losses there, of America's losses in the American Revolution, of a breaching method having measured and maintained what our founders communicated to us through our own, prevented, changed. They communicated for us to communicate the difference between what they said and what they communicated. They did not have free speech. They communicated for us to understand there was a torture method, extortion, slavery method entrenched north and south. Not by them. Not by them. Vaccines. Get on paper, pick one name and sequence, and please keep it civil, and don't describe behavior either way. Criminally foreign influence, and with exceptions, because there's three natures of hyper invisible but still discernible. And there's the value of truth before this. And there is the value of knowing that there's an extent we don't know about, but we know about it with the future. And there's an extent we do know about. So you have the seasons spoken for through filtered people voiced, economic values. You guys owe money now. Don't make it worse. You have remote uses of governors. They're recorded with a governable law. It has something to do. A whole bunch of East Hartford people tied to the names DeMauro and Scalora and Cololo have roles with East Hartford locations, with governors and with senators. They have Anthony Agman and Mike DeMaine has roles with family members of senators, and with a Riley family, with interreligious spots, roles with child offenders. And they brought up the confessions and demonstrations tied to their uses of the religious difference and the differences of their family members, of people near me through time. They make vertical and horizontal confessions. You ignore things that strangers say, like a Mike DeMaine. I only know him planting evidences, and in fake ties, fake natures, ties me bother others aren't involved. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has a Thaddeus Grabowski, one of his co-defendants, on all Fox Connecticut News, and the spots next to it involved with a whole bunch of natures of organized crime and violence at those locations, and connections between people that fell from the top of roofs that they said were suicides. Where the people, where the forensic locations also had collusions with the names there through other stuff. This put a whole bunch of fakes speaking for that. So increasingly, people on off Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, have roles recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with a subby Bajario. And with people, a whole bunch of people tied to him and his kids who have my name used, criminally foreign influence, with WTNH, WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and others about the World Trade Center. So get on paper with them. Put it and and fear God, because they've been putting fake things in databases every year of our lives. Get them on paper. Let's go. What do I have to do? Beg? How long am I going to beg you? Fix the World Trade Center predicate acts too. Please. Get the governors on paper too, and when they don't play politics, don't be cowards. Don't get them on paper. I'll show you how to fix everything real fast. You begin this class, vaccine. You follow mandated law, teach you.